What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Tidecast podcast with your host, Christian Ballard of Ballard Sports Media, coming at you. My first one ever since first of the year. First one I'm doing of the year, actually. I think. Let me go back and look. I need to figure out. I try to work on a schedule for my channel. I do. I just got a new job. Um, and it's just, I just got a new job. So I'm going to have to see what the scheduling looks like for that. And I work around that, I guess. I have not done an episode since early January, before the national championship. And I looked at the championship, and we'll talk a little. It's too late to recap it. We're way past that. I do apologize. I mean, I've talked quite a bit about it on the channel anyway, but in terms of the Tidecast podcast, this is episode 7. I mean, Bama won 52-24, pure domination and great fashion over the Buckeyes. Saban basically said it's the ultimate team, the best team that he's probably ever coached, and Bama fans fully agree. Mac Jones, probably the best Saban quarterback, at least of the Saban era. The best Bama quarterback of the Saban era. Devontae Smith, clearly the best Heisman winner of the three that we have. Compare him, great speed, great hands, right? He wins the Heisman. That I did cover on the last episode. Really not a whole lot of stuff to recap. I will say this: Nate Oates and the Crimson Tide of men's basketball are on a roll. In the SEC conference basketball season. They play their next game. Let me see. Let's see who this is. They play Georgia this Saturday at 3:30. They are ranked number 11 in the country in the top 25 of the men's basketball poll. They're 16-5 overall, which isn't bad. Compare that to last year. They weren't ranked at all last year, and they had some good wins, but they also struggled quite a bit. They're at the top of the SEC. They are 11-1 in conference play, right? They just started conference play a couple weeks ago. It's been a few weeks. The only loss that they have in conference play is at number 18, Missouri. So a road loss to Missouri, who's ranked as well. And at number 18, Bama was a little higher at number 9 or whatever at the time. They dropped a couple spots due to that loss. That's not a bad loss. We'll take it. And it was 3 points, 68-65. And then, as I'm recording this on Wednesday, February 10th, just last night, they got a huge road win over South Carolina. John Petty scoring 20 points in this game. Bouncing back from a loss last week, a few days ago. They win that 81-78. So they win by, 3 points? No buzzer beater or anything. They just, defensively, they stepped up and found a way to hold off South Carolina. And it was one of those, the Gamecocks were kind of coming back on them a little bit. They just kept scoring and scoring. And then Bama, they slowed down a bit, but they bent a little but did not break. And it was incredible to see. You got to give them a lot of credit, I mean, shoot. It was 39-36 Bama at the end of the first half. And then they both teams scored 42 in the second half. And trust me, it was like 63-59 at one point. That's 4 points. Then it's kind of back and forth, right? And, South Carolina had some moments where it looked like they were just losing the game big time. It was over already. But they came right back, and Bama found a way to get it done. Shackelford had a couple free throws. Javon Quinterly made a 3-point jump at one point. Actually made a couple. Petty had a couple threes. Maybe some layups here or there. Alex Reese. I mean, the guys you hear about. James Rojas made a couple free throws. He's a new guy this year, at least in terms of who we're paying attention to and seeing on the court. So that's good. So Alabama basketball on a roll. Bama football, we know, won the championship. I've talked about it quite a few times on my channel. Not really in a Tidecast podcast episode. I know it says weekly podcast. I'm going to change that because I can't keep up with all this weekly. It'll be a podcast. When it happens, I'll get around to it. I try to work on a schedule, and sometimes it just, I don't know, it gets away from me. So, football's over for Bama. Basketball, it's incredible to see what Nate Oates is doing in his second year. It's incredible to see, just the kind of program that he's building with this men's basketball team. It's just incredible. And the SEC right now, I talked about this on, today's Wednesday. I talked about this on Tuesday night. I did Off the Court. I'm trying to bring back Off the Court. And as we get closer to baseball season, maybe the Foul Out, my live baseball show deal, whatever. I talked about this on the show last night. I said that the SEC is a good conference in basketball. Now, obviously, you got stuff like the Big 12 looks better. ACC is a basketball conference. Football, it's Clemson and everybody else. In the ACC, at least. Now, in football, Bama fans, college football right now is Bama and everybody else. They're at the top. It's Saban's world, and everyone else just pays rent in it. No disrespect to Clemson, Ohio State, or whatever, but we saw that, I think, this past season with what he was able to do with recruiting and everything, how he handled the pandemic and everything. So, I mean, I just wanted to throw that out there. But again, back to basketball. SEC had a great season last year and the year before. I mean, we have seen Kentucky be dominant, Auburn be dominant, Florida's pretty good, Bama has been okay. You remember with Avery Johnson, they would compete a little bit. It would make it not even past the first round of the SEC tournament, or make it a couple games in or whatever, and then they're out, and then they get an invitational, like an NIT invite, national invitational round, and they lose that to nobody state. The problem with Avery Johnson, I think, was consistency, and just the talent was there, but the coaching that was required, that was asked of the head coach, Avery Johnson, was not there. That's why they let him go. How they found Nate Oates, I mean, I know he was at Buffalo. He had a great record at Buffalo, won the MAC. He has great accolades and achievements when he was at Buffalo. I hear him talk about it all the time, and I have to look it up myself just to be like, let's make sure who we're really messing with. Like, who is Nate Oates? Who is really at Buffalo? That's where they found this guy, and that's true. They found him at Buffalo, and he just goes on and on about, when I was at Buffalo, we didn't have to do this or that, and we didn't have to play this type of schedule at Buffalo, and Buffalo this, and and honestly, it does get a little annoying to hear. I mean, when coaches go on and on about what they did prior to where they are, because you want to hear about what's going on where they are. You don't care what they did prior. What can you bring, right? congrats, you won your conference maybe 5 years in a row, hypothetically speaking. I don't think NATO did that, but um, that's great. But that's not the SEC in basketball. That's not Alabama. That's not Florida. That's not Georgia. That's the MAC or wherever Buffalo is. And again, no disrespect to Nate Oates. I'm not trying to throw him under the bus or make fun or anything like that. He did great at Buffalo, though. I'll say that. But Buffalo is not the SEC. That's not Kentucky or Auburn or Georgia or Florida or where he's at right now in Alabama. That's not SEC. This is SEC now. Where he's at in Alabama. That's the SEC. But I understand coaches are going to try to... That's how it's going to work, though. I mean, they're going to take what they know from where they were and try to implement it in the new team that they're coming in to coach. That's how it works. That's why you hear them talk about it all the time. Right? So, I mean, I get it from that standpoint. But, again, like... Nate Oates came into the SEC. Kept talking about what he did at Buffalo. Right? And it's just like, okay, tell us what you're going to do here. Well, kind of what I did at Buffalo. But okay, but I'll just stop. I'm not even trying to rant or rip on Nate Oates. I love Nate Oates. I think he's a good human being. He's talked about his faith in God and everything, which I respect and I love. He's just a great coach. And as a Bama fan, I am happy to say that I love having him as the basketball coach for this program. Now, moving on a little bit from Nate Oates, still talking about him, but it's amazing to see what he's done in his second year. He did not inherit last year a dead program. Avery Johnson recruited greatly. Kyra Lewis, Herb Jones, John Petty. I mean, those guys were recruited by Avery Johnson. And if you haven't been watching Alabama this year, you're really missing out. Heck, even last year, you kind of missed out. They had some great wins. They beat a 15-0 Auburn team last season. Didn't get them ranked because they just didn't have enough of a resume at the time, right? They beat at home. I get it's at home. And of course, later on, they lose to Auburn on the road. But that's still a good quality win to push your resume for being in the tournament, right? Then, of course, COVID hits and we don't even have March Madness. The defending champ throne is vacant in basketball right now. Unless you still want to count like who won it last, which was 2 years ago with Virginia. Won the ACC, I don't know if they won the ACC, but they made it all the way to the Final Four. They beat Auburn, controversial call, but they end up going on with it, and they beat Texas Tech, so that was great. But Alabama men's basketball this year is incredible. They are 11-1 in conference play. They were on a good win streak, right? 16-5 overall. They start out, beat Jacksonville State. Talked a little bit about that. It hasn't been that long since I've done one of these. They had a loss to Stanford. They got a loss to Clemson, a loss to Kentucky, Western Kentucky, I'm sorry. Loss at number 24, Oklahoma. That just happened last week, ending I don't even know how many game win streak. It's like 10 game win streak or something, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, about 8 or 9 games. Then you lose on the road to Oklahoma, who's ranked 24 at the time. That's not a bad loss. It's tough on the road, and you're not going to win every game. And I really think they needed that Oklahoma loss. I think it showed that this team is vulnerable and has some weaknesses a little bit, which we know. I mean, they've had some close games that they've pulled off here, there. Like when they beat Auburn on the road earlier in the year, 94-90. That's a close game, and that's a great close win over Auburn team on the road, and Bruce Pearl has done a great job with that program. But they needed that Oklahoma loss, man. You can't win every game, and it'd be nice to see them do it. But these guys are young. Shackelford, who's got a 39 field goal percentage on minimum points per game. He leads the team at 29.5. Bama needed they needed that loss last week, man. Right? It's like when Auburn, like, they're in a position almost like what happened with Auburn last year. They were 15-0, and then they're ranked so high in the country, in the top 10, and then they go on the road and lose to an unranked Alabama team, which I don't remember what Bama's record was at the time. They had played about 15 games or so. 14 maybe, I don't know. They played some games, and they beat Auburn. That was a great win for Alabama. Was that a turning point or a sign that said Nate Oates is the guy and you better look out for him? Maybe. Maybe that started it. Because even late in the year last year for Alabama, it looked great. I wish we had got to the SEC tournament and everything, which thankfully we'll have that this year. And again, that's assuming, which, yes, COVID is still here, obviously, but, with the vaccine rolling out and everything, with testing, and, you can't sit here and say that it's getting worse and worse and worse. Things have opened back up. We're in a new year. I'm not going to get into all the politics and everything. Heck, I even hate to bring it up on here, but things are looking up, I think, for COVID, the whole vaccine and everything. Now, I'm no doctor. At least from what we're hearing, it seems like things are looking up. For all we know, they could be sitting there being like, oh yeah, it's good, it's good. Okay, we cannot tell them this or that. I don't know. I'm sorry, I won't freak anybody out. I'll stop there. But it looks like things are getting better. I don't see any reason to cancel March Madness, right? Now, they've had some games canceled here or there because teams have positive tests, and that's just what you have to do. But I don't think we're going to be in a situation like last year. Because you got to think, last year, when March Madness rolled around, that's when the pandemic had hit. That's when the states were on lockdown. The country was on lockdown. Is when they canceled March Madness, right? Now, they didn't shut down the country because they canceled March Madness. No, they shut the country down. Therefore, the NCAA had to shut down March Madness. Now we're at a point where, even though we still have it going there's still sports. Bama finished the season. We almost didn't have a football season. They had some games canceled. You look at Nick Saban. He had 2 games on the schedule. One he missed. He missed the Iron Bowl. Sarkisian coached it, which he's now off to Texas. Bama's got Bill O'Brien as a coordinator now. I hear rumors that Bama fans are really pissed off about that hire. I don't know. It won't be as good as Sark, but I trust whoever Nick Saban wants to bring in, I guess. But anyway, shout out to Sarkisian. Hope he has a great career at Texas. We'll be pulling for him. I personally hope he can win a championship there at some point. I really do. Not just Big 12, but maybe win a national title. But again, getting back to March Madness, I think it's going to happen. Right. Now, are they going to field a 64-team bracket like they always do? I don't see why you don't. 64 team, or what does it start out as? I guess 64 teams. I don't know. It's a lot. That's why it's called March Madness, because there's too many teams to keep up with. I think they do it like normal. Maybe empty arenas, or maybe limited seating. I don't know what they're going to do for that. But obviously with social distancing, with CDC guidelines, with COVID-19 protocols carefully, because we're still in this pandemic. It might be a new year, which, as much as I hate to admit it, because I hate that we're still going through this too, we all do. Some of us, maybe if you're like me, like to make some stuff up or deny it just to try to make it go away. That's not always the case to go. Sorry. There's going to be March Madness. And Bama is the favorite right now to win the SEC. And even if they don't win the SEC, let's say a team like Kentucky wins it. Because again, regardless of record, everyone's in the conference tournaments. Duke's in the ACC, Florida State, Virginia Tech, right? You could have off the top of my head, I don't know how many regular season games are in the SEC, but let's say it's like 20 regular season games. You have an 0-20 SEC team. How pathetic and embarrassing is that for the SEC, right? 0-20. Hypothetically speaking, of course, folks. They go 0-20. Somehow win the SEC. I'm laughing just thinking about this. They win the SEC 0-20. They look at it and say, well, since you won the conference tournament, we'll put you in. You got to have a spot somewhere. We'll at least invite you. And that team goes on to win the title. First off, that'd be really stupid and dumb and controversial. Everyone jaw dropped that an 0-20 or whatever the heck team ended up winning their conference in the SEC and then find a way to win March Madness. That'd be crazy. But I mean, again, it's called March Madness. I mean, there's a lot at stake, people. And Bama's just one of those teams with a lot on the line and on a hot streak. They're 16-5. They're first in the SEC. They're ranked 11 in the country. They have, in the regular season, 6 games, right? If they win those, they'll be 22-5, first in the SEC. If they lose those, they end up having a record of 16-11. I don't think they're going to lose all those. They'll win a couple of those. Now, does Auburn trip them up? Here's what they have. Recording this on February 10th. So, it's Wednesday. So, they got a game this Saturday night. Or afternoon, actually. 3:30. Against Georgia at home. Then, a week from today, next Wednesday night, at A&M at 9 p.m. Then they got Vandy next Saturday. Then they got Arkansas 2 weeks from now on the 24th. Notice the pattern, they play on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Then you get Mississippi State on the 27th. And then, actually on a Tuesday here, you have Auburn at 7 o'clock. So you got Georgia at A&M, home against Vandy, at Arkansas, at Mississippi State, and then home against Auburn. That's what you got. I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be easy to do that, but I wouldn't be too surprised if Bama sweeps that and closes it out without a loss. Maybe that Missouri loss the other night, would be their final loss of the season, at least in terms of the regular season. And then, of course, you go into the SEC tournament, and it's winner take all. Do or die. You lose, you're out. Right? So, anyway. So, what do we have, folks? I'll fix and wrap this up here. What do we have? Well, Bama won the title in football. And they're ranked number 1. They got a great season, and I'll be doing team preview videos here pretty soon for the 2021 college football season, starting with Alabama. They open up with Miami. If any Miami fans are listening, no disrespect or hatred, but this is going to be a fun off season of just laughing with you guys, at you, whatever, because Miami's not a team you want to sleep on, right? But they are one of those teams that it just seems like we pick them, and I'll explain here why I'm kind of laughing and going to enjoy this offseason with Miami fans, because the last time these two teams met, and I know that they've won a championship since then, but Miami did lose that 92 title game to Alabama. Right? That's fair. Okay? The last time we met, who won the game? But also, because they are. Miami fans always get so hyped about every game, and sometimes I feel like they make their team a little bit better than they actually are. They're a tier 2 team. They are. If they think they're on the level of a team like Georgia or a team like Clemson or whatever, I'm not saying they do, but if there are some out there listening to this, you're not on that level yet. You're going to find that out week 1 against Alabama. I'm telling you that right now. But, so, anyway, look, it's going to be a heck of an off season leading up to that. It's all going to be just fun and games, all trash talk, all business. Bama still got some basketball games left. Right? They still got some basketball games. And then they got the football offseason, spring games coming up. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Tidecast podcast, presented by nobody but Ballard Sports Media, bringing it to you. Episode 7 is in the books. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more sports content to Ballard Sports Media. And until next time, Ballard Sports Media is checking out. Have a good day and roll Tide.